Greetings, salutations, welcome to WagerTalk Studios that rule WagerTalk TV, right? I am your host, Tony Finn, and you are readying yourself for an episode of Faded with Finn, my weekly kind of op-ed on who I believe, with reason, of course, to be profitable fades inside the NFL slate. This being, in specific weeks, we try to do this weekly. We do it weekly. Be it specifically on Sunday or on Monday, which is what we have today. We have one Sunday fade. We have a Monday night football fade. Our last episode of Faded Within found us another 1-1. And I believe, if my math is right, it brings our season record to a pedestrian 6-4. This week's dynamic duo, though, a pair that I figure to be in complete control of the matchup from start to finish. One on Sunday, as I mentioned, the second on the Monday Night Football stage. Now, before we get started, I'm contractually obligated to certain responsibilities to note. One is that you can find me, Finn, at WagerTalk and only at WagerTalk. My college, my NFL cards for Thursday through Monday are in full bloom, available only and only at WagerTalk. I have a Thursday night football doubleheader in the college NFL ranks, and I have a 9-0 mark. I think I mentioned last week I was 8-0. 9-0 Thursday Night Football NFL Network run dating back to October of 21, last October. It's on the line. The early Sunday fade. Let's get to the business at hand. The early season, or the early Sunday fade with the Finn, Faded with Finn, comes via a contest in the Big Easy, inside of the Mercedes Superdome, where the New Orleans Saints host the Cincinnati Bengals. Now, if you haven't done any due diligence, you haven't dug your nose into some of the stats, injuries, et cetera, for these Sunday's matchups, you're going to find much of the same with New Orleans, maybe even worse than what it's been. And that's hard to do. It's hard to speak. And it's going to be even more difficult probably to watch. The Saints finished last week with a nice victory, really. A nice victory, albeit over Seattle. That's a caveat that needs to be mentioned. No matter what the Seahawks have done, they're not very good. They're just not very good, especially defensively. When the Saints score 30-plus points on you, then you need to take a long, hard look in the mirror, probably. This is a one-size-fits-all Tatum Hill situation right now in New Orleans. He carried the Saints last week to a victory over the Seahawks, as I mentioned, scoring 4 touchdowns. That's right, 4. Who the Saints were thought to be this season under first-year coach Allen was a hope, a whim, a dream, a fairy tale. The Saints' defensive injuries, they've handicapped, to their defense, I should say, have handicapped their ability to be all they can be. And despite finishing off a victory over the Hawks last Sunday, they did so without their top 3 wide receivers and their best cover man, their best cover corner on the defensive side of the ball. Not just their best, but one of the best in the league in Marshawn Lattimore. Right now, being at this Thursday tape that we do on this, I was looking over the Wednesday report because I don't have even all the Thursday in yet. It's still a little early on Thursday. But it doesn't look good. I mean, it just doesn't look good. Hardy, Landry, Thomas, none of them practiced yesterday. Lattimore did not practice. Turner from the defensive side of the ball, he didn't practice either. Olave, and also Chris Olave, he's in the protocol. I can go on and on. Even Tatum Hill was on the injury report with a rib problem. And if there's any injury on the report that you don't want to assess, wait on, try to make a judgment on, it's ribs. It's just impossible to do. They don't ever tell you how serious it is. And if you've had a broken rib, you know what I'm talking about. So the Bengals is who we're on. Fading the Saints. We're back in the Bengals. We're riding the back of Burrow and Chase. And I mean that literally. Burrow and Chase this weekend. The Bengals are 3-2. They're hanging their hat on the defensive side of the ball. That's how they've accomplished the 3-2 record. The truth is, a couple bounces, guys, and it wouldn't be pretty, but this Bengals team could be 5-0, 4-1 at worst, in truth, in my orbit. What you're going to see this weekend is a Cincinnati team that not only good defensively, they're probably going to look closer to being elite because of what they're going to be able to do with no receivers, a Kamara that's not 100%, and and a Saints offensive, an OC who's going to he's going to play Hill and Dalton both and try to say, hey, listen, this is all we got. We'll try to confuse the defense a little bit. It's not going to confuse them. When Hill's behind center, they're going to have the Cincinnati defense is going to have blinkers on. Everything's going to be, they're going to pay attention to anything but Kamara and Hill. That's all they're going to do. Hill's not that great a quarterback. He doesn't have that accurate arm, and he doesn't have anybody creating separation to throw the ball to. The bottom line is that Burrow to Chase, which was not what they wanted it to be last week because of what the Ravens did. And let's note, Cincinnati was, again, last week, no time left on the clock. They were still ahead until the ball went to the uprights and the field goal, giving Baltimore the victory. 3-2 Cincinnati is better than their record. And I'm going to, in the next episode or the next Fade It to Fin, I'll talk about a team who's not as good as their record. The bottom line is that the Cincinnati offensive line continues to gain cohesion. And the talent, the skill set between these two franchises is night and day. The Cats are better defensively and offensively. Expect to see Burrow to Chase most of the afternoon, especially if Lattimore is in street clothes and inactive. Thank the Saints by laying the number with the Bengals since he rebounds from that Baltimore. We got to cover with them, but a Baltimore loss, a heartbreaker for them, one that they took pretty well, I thought. And I think they're going to put an absolute beat down, cover by halftime, and then stretch it out over Dalton Hill, Kamara, and the MASH unit. That is the current Saints outfit. We here at the Fade with Finn, we don't take breaks, cigarette breaks, beer breaks between fades. Right to the second fade, a primetime game. Monday Night Football, the Los Angeles Chargers, the Denver Broncos, AFC West rivals. And in this AFC West is a pretty good division. It's one of the better divisions in football. But primetime games with first-year coaches and their staffs over the years, it's always a difficult nut to crack, guys. The routine of the NFL is much different than that of Saturday's campus contests. Kids, teenagers, they're much more flexible, literally, not flexible with their schedule, with what they do during a day, whether they eat at 6 in the morning or whether it be noon, have their breakfast. They're just more flexible. The Broncos and the Chargers. The Broncos were respectable 7-10 a season ago. There were teams with 7-10 marks last year that weren't as good as the Broncos. The Broncos were better than 7-10, mostly because the Chargers Chiefs were pretty good last year, as they are this year. And it's a difficult division to finish 500. You better be damn good. So this Denver group, however, is not as good as last year's group. And that's contrary to everything that was off season about this Broncos. The Broncos brought in a stud quarterback. They are healthier, had some young players defensively, a new ownership, new head coach. The truth is that the offseason moves that this team made and pimped to have raised the bar for this Mile High group, all things equal, weren't going to work. I never thought they would work and didn't have this kind of conversation with my camera to share with you guys until today. I needed to have some more proof, and I think we have it. The Broncos have scored 6 touchdowns. Yeah, 6 effing touchdowns all season. The Seahawks, who are in a rebuild, there's a hard rebuild, have scored 10 touchdowns. And the truth is, veteran backup Geno Smith has been better than danger Russ Wilson. The once heavy defensive Broncos, or at least defensive heavy Broncos scheme, own the worst red zone metric in the universe, both offensively and defensively. Denver's playmakers aren't making plays. Hackett, first and foremost, I think it's important that we understand one thing that I haven't shared and haven't written about even, really, that Neil Hackett, 42-year-old head coach for the Broncos, was brought in to lure Green Bay's quarterback, Aaron Rodgers. That's the intent. That's why, listen, they brought in Hackett thinking that the soap opera with Aaron Rodgers and the Green Bay front office and the board there that owned the Packers was not going to be settled, that it was going to be ugly. And Rodgers really, in truth, to be transparent, made it seem that way. I thought he was fairly convincing. I didn't think these two would be getting along. I think he's still disgruntled, but I think what he saw was that where he was going to go and what he was going to have wasn't going to be even as good as what is really just an above average Green Bay team right now. They haven't been as good defensively as they were supposed to be, and it's hurt them because they don't have the all-pro wide receiver for Aaron Rodgers to throw the ball to. To acquire Wilson, the Broncos traded away 2 first-round picks, 2 second-round picks, tied in Noah Fant, and DT, Shelby Harris. That's who they traded to get Wilson. And again, nothing's working in Denver. And those who might be Denver fans watching this, you have my condolences. It happens to all of us. Our teams, the teams that we grew up with or vested in, have periods of ownership and coaching that don't meet the standards we have been used to or we thought we were getting. And that's what you have with Denver Broncos. This team's not very good. They're not as good as Seattle. And Seattle's in a total rebuild, guys. They gave away more than they got. And instead of raising the bar to be a better team, they really lowered the bar. And I'll go out, stand right now and say Seattle will be in the playoffs before Denver will be in the playoffs. And I'll just put a 3-week time limit. I went a 3-year window on this. Again, fade is on Sunday morning. We're fade New Orleans. We're all over the Bengals. And they're giving a small number, guys. I mean, 4, 4.5, 5, whatever you might think. Yeah, it's a small number considering the situation, the matchup, and the underlying peripherals for this game. It's all Cincinnati. The same applies to an injury-riddled Chargers team. An injury-riddled Chargers team that healthy would probably be, and I'm going to guess, an 8. I think they would have been a 9.5-point favorite for this Monday Night Football game. At least at close, when the books make their adjustments for teasers, et cetera, et cetera. Again, fade New Orleans early Sunday morning. And on Monday night, we're going to fade the Denver Broncos. We have two AFC West foes going on Monday Night Football. We're all over the Chargers. Sunday morning, we're all over the Bengals. I am Tony Finn. And in conclusion, before I dive into anything else, everything this weekend, I typically have a coupon code or a promotion that I can throw at you if you're interested in picking up my entire package for the weekend. But I'm going to anything that I sell from the shopping cart, which means plays or packages that are individualized or custom by me, will be 50% off website price. 50%. Go get it. By the time you see this video, everything's going to be up for the weekend. It's going to be a glorious, glorious weekend, especially with our 2 fades. We're fading again the Saints. We're fading the Broncos. I'm Tony Finn. Thanks for dropping by.